Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining us. This is China Now. My name is Makiza Latifa, and we begin the show with the latest news reports of what's been trending in China on China Currents with Kris, which features the China Development Forum, CDF, held in Beijing, where about more than 110 global business leaders and scholars, including a remarkable number of US executives, were in attendance. It also features the Boao Forum for Asia, BFA, which kicked off its annual conference in Boao, South China's Hainan province on Tuesday. These and many more stories are lined up for today, so stay with us.
China Currents is a weekly news talk show from China to the world. We cover viral news about China every week and also give you the newest updates on China's cutting-edge technologies. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to China Currents. I'm Kris. From March 25th to 27th, more than 110 global business leaders and scholars, including a remarkable number of US executives, went to Beijing for the China Development Forum, putting on a vivid display of global business confidence and commitment to the Chinese market. As China's economy continues to recover and the country continues to open up its market to the world. In a keynote speech at the opening of the CDF on Sunday, Chinese Premier Li Qiang said Chinese economic recovery continues to consolidate and strengthen, and new industries, new business models, and new growth drivers continue to grow. China's economy has strong resilience, great potential, and sufficient vitality, and its long-term positive fundamentals have not changed. The Chinese premier also talked about China's steadfast pursuit of high-quality development and high-level opening up. An increasingly open China will definitely bring more opportunities for win-win cooperation to the world, he said, noting that China stands ready to share great opportunities from its continuous development. During the preparation for the forum, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao met with global executives, including Apple CEO Tim Cook, Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon, and Visa CEO Ryan McInerney. Despite Western media outlets bad-mouthing the Chinese economy, as well as the increasing complex global economic situation, intensive visits by global CEOs to China fully reflect their enthusiasm to share Chinese opportunities and their confidence in China's investment prospects, analysts said on Sunday. During Wang's meeting with Amon on Saturday, both sides exchanged views on China-US trade and economic relations and the company's development in China, according to a press release on the Ministry of Commerce website. Wang stressed that the Chinese government is committed to improving the business environment and serving foreign enterprises' investment and operations in the market. With the conclusion of the CDF, global attention turns to the Boao Forum for Asia, which kicked off its annual conference in Boao, South China's Hainan province, on Tuesday, with regional leaders, government officials, business executives, and scholars from Asia and around the world expected to attend the forum, which is looking to promote unity and cooperation to tackle regional and global challenges. In a flagship report released on Tuesday, the BFA, which is often referred to Asia's version of the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, projected a substantial upswing in economic growth of around 4.5% in 2024, and that Asia's economic integration remains unchanged while warning of challenges. The report pointed out China's major contribution to global economic growth with its vast market, highlighting China's critical role in not just Asia but also the world. This year's BFA drew representatives from more countries and regions than last year's edition, underscoring the rising influence of not just the BFA itself, but also the host nation, China. Many foreign guests in Boao have highlighted China's solid economic fundamentals and improving business environment. On Wednesday, Chinese President Xi Jinping met representatives from the US business, strategic, and academic communities in Beijing, demonstrating the country's commitment to attracting more foreign investment and expanding its opening up to the world. The attendees included Ivan Greenberg, chairman of the National Committee on US-China Relations, Stephen Schwarzman, chairman and CEO of the Blackstone Group, Cristiano Amon, president and CEO of Qualcomm, Graham Allison, founding dean of Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government, and Craig Allen, president of the US-China Business Council. China's economy is healthy and sustainable, she said, noting that China's growth rate was one of the fastest among major economies last year. She said China is planning and implementing a series of major measures to comprehensively deepen reform, foster a world-class business environment that is market-oriented, law-based, and internationalized, and provide broader development space for international business, including US companies. Next up, Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, was on working visit to China from Tuesday to Wednesday at a time when the Netherlands' chip export policy has been in the spotlight. Chinese analysts pointed out that Rutte's visit is perfectly timed, as his country's largest company, the semiconductor equipment maker ASML, is seeking to expand outside of the Netherlands after raising concerns about the country's business climate. They believe that amid weak economic growth, insufficient impetus for technological innovation, and the spillover effect of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which most EU states members are faced with, the Netherlands wants to expand cooperation with China in high-end manufacturing and maintain pragmatic economic and trade cooperation in general. Next up, let's turn to the cyberspace. The US, UK, New Zealand, and Australia have expressed concerns over the so-called malicious cyber activities from China after releasing evidence of infiltration and hacking in recent days and then announcing sanctions, showing strong coordination. Such groundless accusations have been rejected out of hand on Tuesday by the Chinese Foreign Ministry, which urged the US, the instigator behind the smear campaign, to stop politicizing cybersecurity issues and act responsibly in cyberspace. According to CNN on Monday, the Biden administration announced a criminal indictment and sanctions against 7 Chinese individuals for allegedly conducting hacks against US companies and government officials on behalf of China's civilian intelligence service. The charges come as the British government accused China of being responsible for malicious cyber campaigns targeting the country's electoral commission and politicians. Both the US and UK claimed the Chinese hacking group APT31 was behind the cyber activities. It was accused of targeting the US presidential election in 2020. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said at Tuesday's routine press briefing that the Chinese side has made technical clarifications in responses to the so-called APT31 related information submitted by the British side, and made it clear that the evidence provided by the British side was inadequate and relevant conclusions lack professionalism. But unfortunately, there has been no further response from the British side. Next up, people across southwest China's Xizang Autonomous Region have engaged in various celebration activities to mark the 65th anniversary of practicing democratic reform in Xizang, which falls on Thursday. From autocracy to democracy, from poverty to prosperity, and from alienation to freedom, the process of reform has been hailed by local residents and experts as an epoch-making event in the advancement of human rights. Observers also denounced the Western attacks over so-called human rights violations and forced assimilation of culture, noting that they are nothing but fabricated lies out of thin air. A tour of the region will be more than enough to showcase the harmony and unity among various ethnic groups in Xizang, as well as the unremitting efforts of the government to protect and develop local Tibetan culture, they said. Lhasa, the capital of Xizang, is gearing up for various activities to celebrate this day, including book-sharing seminars and a 1,000-person choral competition. Tibet University, a prestigious school in the region located in Lhasa, held a special lecture highlighting the rapid development of Xizang over the past 65 years. The lecturer inspired the audience as he said, "The younger generation with ideals, abilities, and responsibilities holds the key to the future of the country and hope of the nation." Next up, let's turn to the Taiwan Strait. The Chinese mainland is closely monitoring the action of Taiwan Island's military around Kinmen. If they provoke or cause trouble daring to act rashly, they will surely face failure. Chen Binghua, the spokesperson from the State Council Taiwan Affairs Office, said on Wednesday in response to reports that Taiwan Island will conduct live-fire drills in April at locations including Kinmen and Liu. Experts said the Democratic Progressive Party authorities are trying to shape a hardline image to confront the mainland and please its secessionist voters in Washington, who likes to see the cross-strait tension as this can serve its purpose to contain China. However, the DPP will not dare take any extreme action that could really cause military conflict, yet the mainland still needs to be prepared in case of an accident or mistake made by Taiwan's military. The DPP authorities recently announced that live-fire drills will be conducted in April in locations including Kinmen and Lieyu, sparking concerns across the local community. The island's military authorities claim that these actions are part of routine and regular training exercises without any specific targets. Next up, on Monday, Chinese President Xi Jinping welcomed visiting Nauru President David Adian in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping told the visiting Nauruan president that Nauru's political decision to adhere to the One China principle and restore diplomatic ties with China in January is a move that conforms to the trend of history and the times. Xi said, China-Nauru relations have opened a new chapter in history and China is ready to work with Nauru to create a better future of China-Nauru relations and bring more benefits to the two peoples. Friendship, whenever it started, will have a bright future. Cooperation, whatever its size, will be productive as long as it's sincere, she said. Experts said that China's relationship with Nauru, which is often based on mutual respect and support, is likely to serve as a model for the Pacific Island countries. Moreover, the reason why the PICs have preferred deepening their relationship with China is that, unlike the West, China's approach is characterized by long-term commitment, equality, and genuine support for their development rather than driven by geopolitical competition. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of China Currents. If you have any thoughts and comments about our show, please reach us at email address below. I'm Kris. Looking forward to hearing from you and see you next time.
And that's all for China Currents. Thanks for the updates, Kris. Next on the show is Speak Softly with Charles. And the topics for discussion are why the US abstained from voting on the Gaza ceasefire resolution in the United Nations Security Council, and also the terrorist attack in Moscow.
United Nations Security Council finally adopted a resolution on Gaza. It called for ceasefire. It calls for release of hostages. Now, what's significant is, number one, that this was actually passed by 14 votes for out of 15 members and one abstention, that abstention being the United States. And that's significant. So I think what this reflects are really two things. Number one, the US is under intense pressure, both internationally and domestically, to address the genocide being conducted by the Israeli in Gaza. Internally, there's no question that there's been lots of demonstrations and lots of anti-Israeli activities in the United States. Domestically, this is going to cost President Biden quite a bit of votes in the re-election campaign. Internationally, there's also no question that the pressure is on all the Western countries which have been supporting Israel, being pushed by the United States principally to support Israel. And the population in these countries, in most Western countries even, let alone the global South, have really gotten tired of the hypocritical way the US has been backing Israel to conduct genocide. What they've killed are mostly women and children. And the Israelis actually admitted this is what they're doing. And this is really unfortunate. The vote of 14 votes for the resolution and one vote of abstention by the US reflects the global consensus in terms of having a ceasefire, stop the genocide. And it also reflects that the US is now no longer able to wield the global political power that it once held as a hegemon. I think these are more significant than the vote itself. There could be another facet here. It may not be the principal facet, but it could be significant. And that is, what we have is a situation in which Israel is no longer able to contain the situation, can no longer be guaranteed a win or victory. So there could be pressure within Israel too to compromise rather than to continue the course as Netanyahu has continued. And the fact that Netanyahu's visit to the United States reflects also that depending on who did the canceling, that the relationship between the two are no longer as totally in lockstep as before. I think it cannot be in lockstep given the pressure that is now on the U.S. administration and on the United States as a whole. There's another interesting thing that happened in this context, namely, senior Chinese diplomat met with a political leader of Hamas in Qatar, in Doha. And one could be hopeful that China could also make contribution on the mediation or the striving for peace process that hopefully can get underway. China has done the incredible thing of bringing Iran and Saudi Arabia together. We hope they can create another miracle here. On the terrorist attack in Moscow, in which more than 100 people have been killed and then 100 wounded, it's really sad and it's really horrendous. There are many conspiratorial theories going around on this, and I think eventually we'll find out what actually happened from the Russian government. They seem to have already gotten quite a bit of evidence of participation of foreign actors in this. Now, even before it started, U.S. has started to push the line that Ukraine is not involved. And this is interesting, to push this line even before there have been accusations that Ukraine is involved. And Ukraine, of course, vehemently denies that this has anything to do with them. Now, what's significant here is the whole world can see logically the most likely actor behind this is Ukraine. Seems to be a foregone conclusion that any analysis of the situation would lead to this conclusion that Ukraine is involved. And we will see what happens, because even days before the occurrence, a U.S. embassy warned U.S. citizens not to participate in any mass gatherings, including the one that was at the music hall, to do something to protect its citizens. Anyway, we'll see what happens, because I think the situation is such that Ukraine is beginning to weaken significantly in the war, and Russia is now taking a more aggressive stance and using bigger force to really push the Ukrainians to defeat. If this is the case, it's very likely that there will be other action or other activities conducted by the Ukrainian side or backed by the U.S. to either bring NATO troops directly into the battle or terrorist attacks such as this one to wreak havoc inside Russia, to create instability, they hope, in Russia. But I don't think this is going to change the general trend. That's very clear that Ukraine is losing. And also, it doesn't change the trend that if it continues this way, and NATO troops actually get involved, then it can get very, very serious. It can get into a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO, which can be very, very dangerous.
Up next is the Thinkers Forum. Let's start with Meng Meng, an artist and current affairs commentator.
Ever since Netflix's Three-Body Problem made its highly anticipated first appearance, it has faced with a barrage of complaints. The glaring ideological maneuvering needs no further elaboration, such as resetting male character Wang Miao as a white female character with diverse sexual orientations, casting Luo Ji as black and Zhang Beihai as Indian, stressing China's Cultural Revolution, depicting excessive sexual tension and act between various characters, and inserting confounding acts of kneeling to confess to the alias, just to name a few. In summary, the movie is an expose of American ideological exports. Comments on China's social media platform are fun to read. Feel free to explore comments from sources outside of China if you suspect the biases influenced by nationalism among Chinese reviewers. We can see that most movie reviews coincide in their criticisms. except for those from pseudo-art enthusiasts who blindly worship the West. Let's delve a little deeper into the Hugo Award, and we will find that, like other American awards, it is fraught with problems. Science fiction carries with it leftist genes since its inception. It is fundamentally an artistic form created for exploring various changes brought about by technology and capitalism. Whether it's the nostalgic steampunk or the cyberpunk genre, which envisions a combination of low life and high tech, they conform in their concerns with the shifting dynamic between technology and humanity, as well as between capitalism and humanity. The birth of science fiction represents the culmination of thoughts and practices by the leftist academia and the leftist arts worldwide spanning the past 200 years. Take a look at the 2 Chinese novels that were awarded the Hugo Awards. Something smells fishy here. Floating Beijing depicts a Chinese city divided into separate spaces under the extremity of capitalism, as often found in the cyberpunk genre, also an antithetical version comparing to the version most Chinese people have for its own country. The same goes for Liu Cixin's Three-Body Problem. The powerful message of the book, which advocates for hoping humanity despite aberrations in history, is misconstrued. And the three-body problem is reduced into an endless display of China's Cultural Revolution. Those individuals who made the choice either have no idea what China's political system is, and the Chinese people's own reflections on it, or their ulterior motives got the better of them. Even a cursory glance at the award-winning American films and TV series reveals how American values are disseminated through visual art. In my episode on Killers of the Flower Moon, I highlighted the tendency of classic American movies to glorify the massacre of Native Americans in Western expansion by portraying it as a story of Arabian Lawrence or other heroic tales. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The ideology of American artworks has been evolving with changing societal trends. I consider those produced in the American baby boomer era to be of better taste and higher value. It was a period which has witnessed the global rise of leftist ideals, during which liberalism was completely on the defensive. This ideological shift was largely influenced by the success of socialist countries, which posed a significant challenge to the capitalist-dominated world ideology of that time. If you compare DC Universe, which debuted in the 1930s, with the Marvel Universe, which debuted in the 1960s, you will understand the vast differences in worldview. They are basically diametrically opposed. In the 1930s, the United States pursued a foreign policy of isolationism to keep at a safe distance with all the chaos unfolding in the European continent, and was certainly not acting as a world policeman. It was also U.S. response to the Great Depression of the 1930s, which followed the period of economic prosperity in the Roaring Twenties, and also known as the Jazz Age and the Prohibition era. The wealth gap was alarmingly large prior to the New Deal and the leftist movement. Consequently, the lower class lived under the law of the jungle. However, their path to upward mobility within this jungle was obstructed by the conclusion of American westward expansion and the gold rush. With the cessation of rampant slaughter and frenzied infrastructure development, opportunities for upward mobility for the lower class vanished. As a result, they were left with no choice but to endure disorder and poverty. Thus came the superheroes like Batman and Superman, all of whom were blue-blooded aristocrats in the DC universe. Batman's millionaire parents were killed in the street because of poor public security, with Gotham City corresponds to New York at that time, full of gangsters and the mafia. Superman's parents were scientists from Krypton, and he himself, after being raised by farm owners on Earth, received a good education and became a journalist. Wonder Woman also holds a prestigious status as an Amazon princess. None of these superheroes come from anything but upper class. What were the lower class doing in the DC universe? They became psychopathic villains at failure of rising through the law of the jungle. So the underlying worldview manifests itself in portraying the upper class to be elegant, strong, and just, while depicting the lower class as dark, twisted, and mentally deranged. In our era of neoliberalism, the worldview that was a culprit of the Great Depression once again finds itself promoted in movies. Typical example would be Parasite from South Korea, which previously won the Best Annual Movie Award of Oscars. Many film reviews interpret Parasite as a self-reflection on South Korea's capitalist society and the wealth disparity it brings. It couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the movie intends to show how bad, degraded poor people can be, and how they're willing to compromise in exchange for a meal. Isn't it what we're witnessing in the United States now? The lower class is resorting to looting or occupying other people's houses to survive the economic rock bottom. So, it is important to understand history because films and TV series are subconscious reflections of society. By understanding history, we can avoid being easily manipulated by conscious ideological propaganda and avoid blindly following agendas set by others.
Next on the Thinkers Forum is Ferdinand Dudenhoffer, Professor and Director of the Center for Automotive Research in Bochum, speaking about China's car industry.
We see China with a new record in new car sales last year. 25 million cars are sold last year. And we see, if we look at 2030 or something like that, we see that the US and Europe are together have the same size in the automotive market as. So China is the heart of the automotive industry in the future. And what we see is that we have key technologies which are developed and which are very interesting and which have its home in China. That is the battery, lithium-ion battery, because she is the major part, the major component to go into electric vehicles. So, and the heart of that battery, the big companies like CATL, like Ferris, like Gotion, like EV are located in China. So we are dependent a little bit on China if we want to have the technology, but also the cells for this iron batteries, which are very important for the industry. The second thing is, if you look in automatic driving and in a smart cockpit, now we think on companies like Xiaomi or Huawei or others, which give the customers a new feeling how to be in a car. It's not just driving the car, it's having entertainment and all this thing. And that has its home also in China. And young Chinese companies like NIO or Xiaopeng are doing that very well. So we see the third part is the automotive driving. China is far away from the other countries in automotive driving. You have got Beidou, which is doing with roboto taxis together with its Apollo affiliate. On the other hand, you have Rewrite. They also do that experiment and also that do that offering that robo car transportation for customers, and also AutoX. So we see a lot of innovations which help the automotive industry to go with more innovations in the future. And the German car industry is a strong car industry which has strong roots in the past. And if we can combine both, then we got a package with the best package in the world. So we see that Mercedes, we see that BMW, we see that VW Group are working strong together. Also the suppliers like, for example, Conti or like, for example, ZF, which are very close to China car industry, and to Chinese car makers. So I think it's a win-win position if we both go into cooperation and work together within the automotive industry. When I look back 10 or 15 years, then the Chinese car industry was a very weak industry. They had lousy cars, low quality, no innovations. If I look today in the Chinese car industry and also in the Chinese software industry, then I see that they are full of innovations which help to improve the products step by step. Huawei is very important in that process. Xiaomi is very important in that process. Xiaomi and Huawei stepped in the automotive business because they say what the customer wants to have is a digital ecosystem. NIO is doing something like that also. So if you are in a digital world which brings the customer a lot of advantages, the car is one part of that world. So why don't we go into that future? See, Apple tried it for 20 years. Yeah. Apple failed. So I think it's a big chance for the Chinese company to build that new world in which auto and the car is a very important issue. However, to combine it in a world in which technology and advancements and research bring the future in the products. It's a little bit like what they do and what they do, a little bit like Elon Musk and Tesla. Tesla revolutionized the automotive industry because he came with fairly new approaches. What we see with Huawei, with NIO, but also with Xiaomi and others, is Chinese company could do the same. See, Apple had with its former CEO person, which was very strong doing research, development, wanted new products and all these things. What we see on the Chinese side is that the Chinese companies are very interesting to do more innovations. And what we also see is that the country by itself had the possibility to go faster in that direction. For example, in Germany, we have a strong data protection laws. If you have very strong data protection laws, sometimes you limit research, you limit software developments, you limit what you can do, for example, the internet technologies. If we look at Robocar, at Baidu, they combine that. See, artificial intelligence is the big buzzword what we have at the moment in the industry. Everybody goes in AI and artificial intelligence. If you want to do that, you need data. Without data, you are lost because the robots and the software must learn like children learn if they go to school and get its studies. We see Xiaomi, Huawei, they have the competence for clouds, for moving data in the internet, to analyze data, to bring it in new products, and the possibility you have in China. For example, also with your robocars. We don't have robocars in Europe. You have robocars from Beijing, Daxing airport into the city, which is really great. And this robocars and the software in that cars, they learn and learn and learn. And the same applies to the semiconductor, like, for example, Horizon Robotics and others who do that. So China seems to be to us a world in which departments and companies work closer together. If you look at Apple, it was a single company. They want to do it by everything by itself, and possibly that was a failure. See, the government is always a risk in systems like Germany because the next election could be an election, something will change like in the US. However, I'm pretty sure that the people will understand what's going on. That is the wrong approach. And in our government, especially the Greens, are not big friends of China. They fear a little bit China. However, other parts of the government are very open. As far as I know, our chancellor will be in China next again in April, just before the Beijing Auto Show. That is an important sign also for the car industry. So, see, Germany is in Europe, and Europe is very difficult, especially the European Union, the EU, because on the one hand, you have countries like France, they like protectionism. And if you do protectionism, it's not working together. You are separated and you will lose. So the French government is having strong initiatives to go to the EU to force that investigation on this unfair competition which is due in China to its car makers, which is, in my point of view, not the truth. So that's a little bit a political system which we have, and differences in political systems which we should overcome time by time. I think we are in a world in which we should be open, which should be open also to new technologies, and we should not fear things which are not existent. I think what we see at the moment is that we have some discussions, and I fear that the tariff discussions could be detrimental. But I hope that Germany will help to throw away that discussions in Europe, because, see, if we go to tariffs against Chinese car companies, then we are pretty sure that the Chinese government will also answer with some tariffs, a retaliation, and that would hurt Porsche extremely, because Porsche is not producing cars in China. It would also hurt Mercedes, it would hurt BMW, it would hurt the suppliers in Germany, because they bring its high-end production cars, which they do in Germany, with exports to China. And the second thing is, if you build tariffs just to make a tariff wall against China, that's a stupid strategy, because then the Chinese companies will start to build up production facilities in Europe. The same applies. The same took place 30 years ago in the US, when the US don't wanted to have exports from Japan cars to the US. So the Japanese companies like Toyota went to the US, and today Toyota in the US is the second largest car company. So it's stupid to do it. So I'm pretty sure that our government and our car industry will fight that we don't have tariffs in the future between China and Germany in the car business, because that is really detrimental. I'm pretty sure that the cooperation will be stronger and stronger and stronger, because now we are in a world in which China delivers innovations, which is very important for the product. And on the other hand, we have the German car industry, which know a lot of mechanics of car, a lot of road holding about cars. So I think they will continue to combine these two. We'll see, the best example is VW. VW has its second largest development center in Hanoi. The same applies to BMW. The second largest development center is in China. So it comes together also in the academic part, also in the research part, with the engineers come closer and closer together, and then we can do it. VW is very strongly dependent on China, also Porsche, also BMW, and they realized that, and they tried to increase its cooperation. Therefore, it's important to make an open discussion with the public, to discuss with the people what's going on and what's helpful, and that will help to convince them. And if they are convinced, then the politicals have to do what they want to do, what the people want to do.
And that's all for the show today. We are super grateful for your time. Please do not forget to send in your comments, your thoughts, feedback, and suggestions through the email provided below. My name is Makiza Latifa, and I will see you same time next week.